I am actually having to stream quarterback this week. It is an ugly, ugly situation with Josh Allen on bye. I'm sure that you can maybe relate if you have either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson on bye, but let me show you my quarterback rankings. Let's talk through them. Let me show you my tight end rankings. Let's talk through them. And I am actually streaming defenses yet again this week, as I always do. Last week, I played the Raiders DST against Tennessee. Felt very, very good about that. And we can go ahead and we can figure out what we should be doing at the position this week. But let's start it off with QB1. QB1 is going to be Jaden Daniels. Now, if we are looking at what Daniels has done so far this season, honestly, it's a little bit difficult for me to sit here and say that he is by far and away the QB1 this week based off his prior performances. Like, he is sitting here with his best game so far this season at 21.6 fantasy points. Now, of course, he's given you a relatively high floor with his worst performance being 17.1, but also you are in a spot in which you don't have Terry McLaurin practicing on Thursday. Deebo Samuel didn't practice on Thursday, so maybe you're concerned overall about this offense. But with that in mind, you're actually pretty safe in my opinion, because if you look at the implied team total getting pulled in on flockfantasy.com, you will see that you currently have the Commanders projected to score 28.5 points. And you combine that with the rushing that we have seen from Daniels since he's come back from his injury. He's actually given you 52 and 39 rushing yards over the past 2 weeks. So I'm fine ranking Jaden Daniels as QB1, even if he hasn't been that good this season. Now, let's move over to Patrick Mahomes, who's actually the QB1 in points per game, while at the same time, he's actually sitting with an implied team total of 28.5 points. Mahomes has been incredible, especially as a rusher, where if we go through and look at this, he's had 222 rushing yards this season. He's actually averaging 37 rushing yards per game, which is the most that we have seen through his entire NFL career. The adjusted yards per pass attempt is at 7.4, which is the most that we've seen over the past 3 years. You now have Rashee Rice coming back in. All of this is super exciting for Mahomes, but it's going to be tough to see the Raiders put up a fight. The spread on this game's almost 2 touchdowns, so you could see the Kansas City Chiefs running the ball in the second half. And then we will have Jalen Hurts as our QB3. Jalen Hurts has struggled this year, but ultimately, he is the number 1 quarterback in the NFL for rushing points so far this season in fantasy. While at the same time, he gives you a decent floor where he's had at least 19.5 fantasy points every single week this season outside of week 2. And the offensive projections are fine. Now, if you're playing in a 6-point passing touchdown format, you would drop Jalen Hurts just a bit here. Now, moving over to A tier. This is probably going to be the highest that I've ranked Dak Prescott all season. But if we are looking at the projections that you have currently, right now the over-under of this game for the Commanders and the Dallas Cowboys is like 54.5. There's not been a game all season that is projected as well as what you have with this Dallas game. And at the same time, you actually have Dak Prescott projected out on Underdog Fantasy as the best quarterback in the league when it comes to passing volume at higher, lower 266.5 passing yards in this game. You have CeeDee Lamb coming back in. Dak Prescott is higher, lower 19.75 fantasy points. So realistically, Dak is a super safe play when it comes to his projections with Lamb in a high scoring environment. Now moving over to Drake May. Drake May is sitting here coming off a performance with 27.2 fantasy points per game. Obviously, he's looked incredible from a real life perspective. He's the QB6 in points per game, averaging about 20.6. This is a revenge game for Mike Vrabel playing at Tennessee. Implied team total almost 25 points for the New England Patriots. So you want to get excited about Drake May in this spot. You would hope that Tennessee can put up some type of fight so the Patriots are forced to throw the ball. Then Caleb Williams has also been averaging about 20.5 fantasy points per game. The same thing as May. The Bears actually project to score a few more points this week with Caleb with an implied team total of 25.5. If you look at his projections on Underdog Fantasy, he's actually up higher, lower 20.55 points That's actually higher than what you have with Dak Prescott. Drake May is higher, lower, 19.05. So the projections on Underdog actually have Drake May as the worst quarterback out of this little trio. I just think that Vrabel may actually be willing to let the New England Patriots put the pedal to the metal in the second half, even if they're winning, because it's a revenge game. Now, obviously, if you want to say, Mason, these are way wrong, why the hell are you bringing these up? Underdog Fantasy has no idea what the hell they're doing. I'm going to let you know, you're probably wrong with that statement, but if you're a crazy person who thinks that, Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state. If you think that Drake May is going to run away from Caleb, you could go higher than 19.05 fantasy points on Drake May, lower than 20.55 points on Caleb. The link to Underdog Fantasy is in the description. It's in the comment section. It's in the live chat. Right now, Underdog Fantasy is running the best promos that they have in the 5 years that I've been working with them, which is after you play your first $5, you're going to get $100 added into your account if you use code FLOCK. And on top of that, you'll get a free gimme pick, Jaylen Warren, higher, lower, half a total yard. Underdog Fantasy is at the very top of the App Store because it's an incredible app. It's available in almost every state. And at the same time, they have the best promos on the planet. Also, if you use code FLOCK, not only are you going to get those promos, but you also get free questions that you can ask me in the live stream every single day. I'll be streaming until Christmas. Links in the description, links in the live chat, links in the comment section. Then moving over to Jared Goff. Jared Goff's in a really good game environment against Tampa, where the over-under of this game's about, I want to say, 52.5 points. Right now, you actually have the Detroit Lions projected to be the highest scoring team on the slate with an implied team total at 29. The hesitation I would have to put Goff ahead of any of the quarterbacks ahead of him. Well, this would be a rush-first offense in Detroit where Goff's not going to run the ball a ton himself. Now, looking at Daniel Jones will run the ball somewhat. There are dogs playing in Los Angeles against the Chargers in this. Daniel Jones is the QB 10 in points per game. He actually did score 22.5 points against the Arizona Cardinals this past week, and he's had 4 rushing touchdowns on the season, so he is running the ball a considerable amount here. Now, moving over to our next tier, that's going to be B tier. We'll have Jordan Love kicking us off. With Jordan Love, we know this is going to be a rush-first offense, while at the same time, Love's not going to run the ball a ton himself. Now, with that being said, he is up at 17.6 rushing yards per game so far this season, which is a career high for Love. While at the same time, I mean, this is a game in which the Packers do project to score a ton of points. Justin Herbert is pretty much averaging the same amount of points per game as what you have with Jordan Love so far this year. The Chargers project to score 1 fewer point than the Packers, but it's probably going to be a higher scoring game in general if we were looking at Herbert versus the Colts in comparison to Love versus the Cardinals. Justin Fields, I know it's crazy to see like, oh my gosh, he's ranked here at 11 and you have no Garrett Wilson. The thing with Justin Fields is you were never ranking him at 11 anyway because of his passing volume. The reason he's a top 12 quarterback is because of the rushing upside. It's a great matchup against the Carolina Panthers. If you look at what Fields has done so far this year, he's actually scored 29.5, 27, 26, and 5 fantasy points. So you had the one dud performance in Europe. Y'all know I've been a hater of Justin Fields for quite a while now, but realistically, I think you have to just say that he has the rushing upside in a 4-point passing touchdown format. He's interesting. Now, Baker Mayfield will probably go up my rankings in the context that Mike Evans plays. Mike Evans is back at practice today. We know Ibuka's not going to play. We know Godwin's not going to play. We know Bucky's not going to play. Now, if I'm looking at this matchup against Detroit, you can assume that Baker's going to have to drop back consistently because you do currently have the Lions favored by about 6 points. I love Baker. There's no player that I'm rooting for more right now. He's the most exciting player in the NFL, in my opinion. Just with the amount of weapons that he is missing, it is tough. Where if I had Herbert, I would play Herbert ahead of Baker, but then still assume that obviously you're going to be looking at a very exciting quarterback post-bye when all these wide receivers start coming back. Now, Bo Nix will be our next quarterback. Bo Nix is currently the QB 22 in points per game. He's been very bad in fantasy this season. Realistically, you actually do have decent projections for the Denver Broncos this week, though. They project score just as many points as what you have with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And now this is C tier. Now, I understand everybody is going to be losing their mind when it comes to Jackson Dart. And I get it. Jackson Dart this past week was the most exciting quarterback in the NFL against the Philadelphia Eagles, where on Thursday night, they beat the Super Bowl champs with everybody watching, and it was a ton of fun, and Jackson Dart is running the football a ton as well. Now, with that being said, a couple different things going on here. We've seen him play 3 games, and he's gone over 20 fantasy points in one of those contests. Now, it was against Philly, where he scored 23.6. Second main thing why I am ranking Jackson Dart as a player that you should bench is the implied team total, according to sportsbooks. They have the New York Giants as the worst offense in the NFL this week, and a really tough matchup against the Denver Broncos. They have an implied team total of 16.5 points. Go over and look at real projections. On Underdog Fantasy at the moment, Jackson Dart's higher lower 182.5 passing yards, higher lower 14.335 fantasy points. So I have Josh Allen on my team. I am actually going through myself and streaming a quarterback from this tier this week. And the quarterback that I'm opting to go with is Aaron Rodgers, who's not going to run the ball at all. But with Rodgers, the benefit that you're going to get is the matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals is one in which the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight project to score 25.5 points. They project to score 9 more points in comparison to the New York Giants. So don't shoot the messenger. But again, I'm going to remind you that sportsbooks know more than you do. They know more than I do. And even if we look at projection providers such as Underdog Fantasy, they currently have Aaron Rodgers higher lower 18.5 fantasy points. So if the Steelers project score 9 more points than the Giants this week, it would be reckless for me to put Jackson Dart ahead of Aaron Rodgers despite the matchup, just because he looked great on Thursday night. So for me, I have to stream because I have no Allen. And what I decided to do is I decided to pick up Aaron Rodgers, and I am putting Aaron Rodgers into my starting lineup. If I had any of the B tier quarterbacks or higher, obviously I would go with them, but I don't. And this is the tier of guys that were available on my waiver wire, and I opted to go with Aaron Rodgers, and I kind of stand by that. Now let's go ahead and let's look at what we have with the tight ends. And I want to say something real quick here. If y'all don't know, if you're a paid member of the site, we actually just launched it where you can see all these updated tier lists literally whenever you want. Obviously, y'all know I tinker with my rankings literally every single second. People make fun of me for it. They say I overreact. They go, oh, everything's changed just because a player got injured. Yes, hey, I'm going to let you know when players get injured, you should update your rankings if you're going to be real with yourself. But anyway, we built it out on flockfantasy.com where you can see these tier lists whenever you want. Just go ahead, select me as a creator, then toggle it like this, where if you wanted to see just the rankings listed out this way with all the stats, that's this button. If you wanted to see the tier list, that's this button. But we'll move over to our tight end tiers at this point. And again, all of this is currently hosted through flockfantasy.com. Okay. And let's pull up S tier. So you should already know if you have Trey McBride, if you have Tyler Ward, and you start him with zero hesitation, there's nothing to discuss. Now, maybe you go, oh, is Kyler playing or is Brissett playing? Obviously, I didn't put Kyler in my rankings this week. Kyler did get in a limited practice on Wednesday, but a big thing with Kyler is this Cardinals team has a bye week in week 8. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kyler misses, but it honestly doesn't impact my rankings of Trey McBride one way or another. Because the Colts project to score 4 more points than Arizona this week, we actually do have a really tough matchup against the Green Bay Packers for Arizona. I wouldn't fault you at all if you wanted to put Tyler Warren over McBride, but the fact of the matter is you play both of these guys. Now, looking at what we have with Jake Ferg as well as Tucker Kraft. Jake Ferg is the tight end 1 in fantasy points per game. If y'all remember, once CeeDee Lamb went down, we threw him as a buy low candidate, just knowing that this was going to be a high volume passing attack where Jake Ferg was going to get a lot of volume with no CeeDee Lamb. But now CeeDee Lamb is back. even if this is a phenomenal game environment, I would still much prefer McBride, much prefer Tyler Boyd over Jake Ferguson because Lamb is coming back in. Tucker Kraft, super safe play. He's the tight end 7 in points per game. Remember, he was actually banged up a couple weeks back before the bye week. Gets the bye week, fully healthy, played 93% of the snaps this past week, didn't have a ton of volume, but it was an environment in which the Green Bay Packers just simply didn't throw the ball at all, playing against the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think Tucker Kraft is still a super safe option. Now, looking at B tier, we're going to throw George Kittle here. I don't know if Kittle's going to play or not. But if Kittle does play, we can probably safely say that we know Jawan Jennings won't be 100%. Ricky Pearsall is not going to be playing. So, if I had Kittle, I'm throwing him on my starting lineup as long as he's good to go. But it is not a super safe spot to give you this ranking on Thursday, just because obviously we don't know much about the status of Kittle for this weekend yet. Now, Sam Laporta will be our tight end 6. Laporta's been great this year. If you're looking at the targets, he hasn't had a single game with fewer than 4 targets. And again, the Detroit Lions actually project to be the highest scoring offense on the week with an implied team total of 29 points. Then Dallas Goedert is the tight end 2 in fantasy points per game. Trust me, I am very, very much rooting for Dallas Goedert. This dude is inside my own starting lineup. I absolutely love the 26 points that we got against the Giants. It helped me score the most points in the Flock League this past week. It helped me move to 5-1. And I'm hoping that Dallas Goedert this week is going to help me move over to 6-1. But this does look very, very tough if we're looking at the touchdown efficiency. Dallas Goedert this year is averaging 1 touchdown per game. Let's look at what he's done through his entire NFL career, because this dude's in year 9 at this point. His rookie season, 0.3, then 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, 0.2, 0.2, and now he's at 1.0. Which one of these looks like an outlier when it comes to his touchdowns per game? Probably this past season. So I'm a little bit concerned that that volume is going to go in the other direction. I think we are going to get hit with some Dallas Goedert regression. It's a tough matchup at the same time going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, moving over to C tier, we are going to be looking at a list of tight ends that all are playable for separate reasons. Travis Kelce's been decent this year, averaging 12 points per game. Harold Fanon is actually favored against the Miami Dolphins, and you have no David Njoku in this. Going over and looking at Hunter Henry is averaging 10.9 points per game. They don't have an established alpha. Great quarterback play. Darren Waller is averaging 17.5 points per game. The reason we're going to be lower on him than his per game output, very similar to Dallas Goedert, is the touchdown efficiency is just not sustainable. If you're looking at what he's done so far this year, he's had 12 targets and 4 touchdowns. Do you think Darren Waller is going to continue to score a touchdown on every 3 targets? And then looking at Kyle Pitts, if Darnell Mooney doesn't play, he looks viable. If Darnell Mooney does play, he's probably lower down. Zach Ertz is the tight end 17 in points per game, but it's the best game environment on the week. While at the same time, you're in a spot in which you don't have Deebo Samuel and you don't have Terry McLaurin practicing on Thursday, so we don't know the status of those wide receivers. Now, looking at D tier, TJ Hawkinson is going to be the first tight end that I have on my bench. I'm still a believer. He's still on my roster. He's the only tight end I have on my bench. Obviously, I'm not rostering 3 tight ends. But I don't see how he could be exciting to get in your starting lineup. Cade Otton definitely looks viable. He's the tight end 36 in points per game, but you may have no Mike Evans. You definitely have no Godwin. You definitely have no Igbuka. You definitely have no Bucky. Baker Mayfield's balling, so even if Cade Otton's only averaging 5.3 points per game this season, he looks exciting. Michael Mayer averaging 6.7 points per game, but obviously in this contest, you're going to have no Brock Bowers, and Michael Mayer this past week looked great, playing 91% of the snaps and drawing 32% of the team's targets for Las Vegas. Then we have Mason Taylor against the Carolina Panthers, and we have Evan Ingram against the New York Giants. Now, I'm going to be honest with y'all and show you exactly how I stream defenses. And in reality, I'm 5-1, and a big reason for that with my own fantasy football team is I've actually been killing it streaming DSTs. And I would 100% be lying if I tried to come through and try to tell you, like, oh, okay, I cracked the code. I can tell you every defensive player. I can talk about every defensive scheme. And I know everything there is about these defensive coordinators and the way that they're going to match up against these offenses. That would be a lie. But what is the truth is we are able to go through and we are able to look at something stupid simple. This is going to be sportsbook projections with implied team totals. Right now, the Denver Broncos are favored by 7 points against the New York Giants, and the Giants project to be the worst defense on the week. The worst offense on the week. Would I rank Denver as the top DST? Probably not. If I was having to submit these rankings, I'd probably go with the Chiefs playing Geno Smith with the interception problem, with the offensive line problem, knowing the spread in this game is 11.5 points. But regardless, the Chiefs, the Broncos would both be auto starts. The New England Patriots would be an auto start. Pretty much anybody playing the Titans would be. The Cleveland Browns are actually in a very good situation where the over-under this game's only 39.5 points. Cleveland's favored over the Miami Dolphins, who are rumored to just be fire-selling all their assets. Then beyond that, you have the Seattle Seahawks DST that failed me 2 weeks ago, but here they are 3.5 point favorites against the Houston Texans. This game's kicking off at 10 p.m. CST, and maybe you get the Texans players a little tired, needing some caffeine for the game. Green Bay playing the Cardinals, 6.5 point favorites. You don't know the status of Marvin Harrison or Kyler Murray. Pittsburgh playing the Cincinnati Bengals are 5.5 point favorites tonight against Joe Flacco, who's going to be immobile and probably take some sacks behind a bad offensive line. The Bears are the DST that I am streaming this week. In my league, the Steelers, Packers, Seahawks, Browns, Patriots, Chiefs, and Denver Broncos DSTs were all rostered. So I decided to pick up the Bears playing against the Saints, 5.5 point favorites at home. And the Saints only project score 20.5 points. Carolina, Philadelphia are both interesting plays as well. And typically what I'm doing is I'm not ranking these defenses just exactly how it stands with their offensive counterparts projections. We're taking that into account. We're taking into account the turnovers and pressures generated from the DST that week, while at the same time looking at the spread in the game, because you really want your defenses leading the games, because if they are ahead, what you're going to get is you will get the opposing quarterback having to drop back. Where the opposing quarterback's dropping back, that's when we can generate sacks. That's when we can generate turnovers. And that's when we can generate, hopefully, a DST touchdown. But I think that's all we have for this. I will remind y'all, I'm actually going to end this live stream. I'm going to fill up this water, and then I'm going to fire up a new live stream answering your fantasy football questions on flogfantasy.com. Again, if y'all wanted to get guaranteed free questions answered, you could always take advantage of the offer on Underdog Fantasy, where if you go over to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, you are going to be getting $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. Plus, you'll get a free Jalen Warren pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for tonight's game. Underdog Fantasy is at the very top of the App Store. 1, for the reason they're an incredible app. 2, for the reason they're available in almost every state. And 3, for the reason that the promos they're running right now are better than anybody else in the business. And also, code FLOCK not only will get you those promos, but you also get free questions answered in the live streams that we're doing every single day. And again, we're live streaming every single day until Christmas, answering your fantasy football questions. But I think that's all I got for you. I hope I get to see you out in the live stream in about probably 10 minutes, because again, I got to fill up this water so we can go until kickoff. But much love, and I'll see you in like 10.